Hi, I'm Caitlin,
And I'm Brianna.
and welcome to the Readers Clubhouse, where we revisit our childhood favorite content. Brianna, I believe you are the one that's leading us with the question today.
Guys,
I
I was having
just,
the hardest time
yeah,
figuring out a transition question for
here's the
this.
thing that you should know, people who listen to this. We have a layout for how our podcast sort of
Mm,
goes. It's it's the bones of a structure, okay?
yeah.
I also just noticed that you spelled the king's name. You swapped two letters. It's fine.
That's gonna happen.
It is gonna happen. Anyway, and one of the things that we have is a transition question just to sort of get us going. It's almost like we never talk, and so it's not like we were talking for the last 20 minutes about a
Yeah,
K-pop animation.
literally, we started up our Zoom call where we record, and Caitlin immediately was like, Brianna, you gotta see this. So she showed me a video of something
Yeah, it's
she wanted
coming
to show
out
me.
on June 20th and it looks really good.
Yeah.
So just so you know, this episode will come out, I think, far past June 20th.
Yeah.
If somebody listens to it, it's on Netflix. It's called K-pop Demon Hunters. And
Oh, yeah.
kids animation movie that looks phenomenal. It's also a
It,
musical. Anyway,
yeah. I
so
mean,
one
if it
of
has the
the
word K-pop in it, it
I
better be
mean,
musical.
you're so right, Brianna. It's actually Korean popcorn, is what I'm just kidding. Anyway, we have a transition question. We usually have a discussion about it beforehand. We did yesterday when we got lunch, and we just neither of us could think of anything.
Yeah.
Anyway, I opened up the document this morning, and it just says snakes. So, Brianna, ask me about snakes.
Caitlin,
Yes.
what are your feelings about snakes?
What are my thoughts and feelings about snakes?
Yeah.
I like them as a concept. Um,
That's so valid.
yeah, I mean, I think I used to when we lived in the swamp house,
Yeah.
I used to like catching garter snakes or gardener snakes,
I
depending on how you
forgot that you did that.
like pronounce them. Um, yeah, I mean, I just like to catch them and then hold them, and I'd be like, okay, well, I'm done, and I'd set them free because,
Gosh, you were
you know,
like the little wild child because Caitlin also, growing up, would speak to moths at one point. She'd catch
yeah.
them and like chat
No,
to
no, 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 I
them.
wouldn't catch them. I would sit on the hood of the car by the lamp, like by the garage
Oh,
light, and they're all
okay.
there, and I'll just sit up there and talk to them.
Yeah, you were like Donnie from the Wild Thornberries.
Oh, fantastic reference. How come you always compare me to the goblin children and everything? I'm not a goblin child anymore. I know that I live in a garage right now and
Caitlin,
they call me the house gremlin, but like I'm
uh,
realizing
you're not helping your
you're not helping
case.
my case.
Okay, before we get too far away from snakes, I do want to come back to it, not something about snakes, but it's another creature that starts with an S, and what I compared you to yesterday.
A
That book
skunk?
that
Yeah, guys, we were at a random bookstore that we discovered as Brianna was driving to drop me off and was like, great, we're gonna go inside. It's gonna be a great time. And it was. It was fantastic.
was great,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Third place books or something like that in Seattle. If you ever are in Seattle, you should watch it or you should go to it. Um, I pulled up this book and it's called Skunk and Badger. And it's got the skunk that has its hand, its little paw out, it's like looking like it's gonna shake Badger's hand. And then Badger is just looking not having it. And Bria's like, "Oh, it's you." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Look
You
how eager his face is." And I was like,
literally
"What? That's so rude.
his face, I was just like, that's a Caitlin face.
It's a skunk, Brianna."
If it had been on any other animal, I would have said the same thing.
But it just happens to be on a skunk, and I'm just gonna say you
Yes.
compared me to a skunk, and I will never forgive you for it. So it will come back to haunt you one day. Is all I'm
Maybe,
saying.
or it'll be an infinite form of amusement to myself every time it gets brought up.
Like
Because,
every time you're like, you remember that one time you salted those potatoes too much?
oh yeah,
Me, 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 me.
yep.
Anyway,
Okay,
this is
back to
come.
snakes.
How do you feel about snakes, Brianna?
I actually am the same boat with you with that. I love the concept of them. Like, I love one of my things, I love mythical creatures. I love stories that have them in them.
Hmm.
Um, and one of my, like, one of the ones that I think are really interesting are like half snake people, or
Mm.
sometimes they're called nagas or lamias, or there's like a lot of different ways they can be referenced in different myths. or just made up in things. Like I
Hmm.
know there's like some versions of that in D&D. So there's
Hmm.
like also things in that. So I like they're really interesting. I I've watched like videos of snakes and like people who own
Hmm.
snakes and they they're actually just so interesting because they're not
Yeah.
quite as like terrifying a lot of the time. They are still, but that's the same
Hmm.
thing you could say about a dog or a cat if you like they actually like more were fed into their instincts about things and weren't
Yeah.
overly domesticated and stuff. Um, and so like it's interesting like watching snakes and like they have these little snouts and stuff
Hmm.
and they like kind of do their thing. And like I don't know, but I also I'm a texture person and I've never been
Yeah.
a huge like I want to hold a snake kind of thing. I might if I got used to it, it'd probably be fine, but I've never given myself many opportunities
Sure.
to hold a snake, so there's
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love a mythos that's like a world snake sort of thing.
Ooh, yeah.
Um, I also love the dragons that are sort of snake-like more so than flying, like the Chinese dragons, how
Oh, yeah.
like it's
They're more
more
serpentine. Yeah.
serpentine bodies and no
Mhm.
wings and they fly through vibes, I guess. I don't know, magic.
That's honestly so valid. It's literally just vibes
Yeah.
most of the time.
I mean, the book I read recently, Dragon Fruit, had
Oh,
sea
yeah.
dragons, and they were definitely described as more serpentine than they were sort of Western style. I don't know what you would describe as.
They're honestly more like lizard-like because there's a difference between
Oh,
lizards and
yeah, I
serpents and
see. Yeah.
stuff. Or sometimes if you look into different things, and this isn't with actual mythos, because honestly, most mythos does make them more like lizard-like.
Yeah.
But sometimes in like people's stories, they make them like cat-like or
Hmm.
dog-like, depending on which way you're
It's
going
like
with
How
that
to Train Your
stuff.
Dragon is a bit more
Yes.
cat-like. But I'm thinking like
Depending on the dragon, some of
depending
them
on
are
the
more
dragon, yeah.
dogs and
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah.
That's true. The big
Yeah.
fat
Or
one was more like a dog.
yeah, he
I
definitely
can't
was
remember her
dog
name.
coded.
No,
Yeah,
her, it's a
I
she.
oh, is it she?
Yeah, fish legs and his little female dragon that.
I did not realize I didn't like I watched this forever ago and they never were particularly like my thing, so I didn't pay attention to little details like that and
I did.
stuff. But yeah, you love How to Train Your Dragon.
It's a great show. Anyway, Brina, why did you ask me about snakes and then compare me
Uh,
to a skunk yesterday?
the skunks have nothing to do with this. So snakes actually are multiple times. We're talking about a Redwall book again. It's called Triss. And
Triss a bit.
it
Never mind. Sorry.
no,
Ignore
not
me.
that Triss.
Yeah.
Um,
It's also
but as
Tress.
often it is within Redwall, there is like snakes. They're a lot
Hmm.
of the time bad guys and everything. And while we love a good bad guy, they generally are kind of more like lethal in a lot of
Yeah.
ways than a normal vermin situation and stuff. While they are still just normally lethal, there's just this like feeling of death. Like referencing all the way back to the original bad guy snake in a Redwall book. Look, Caitlin. Referencing all the way back to the original Redwall book, we have Asmodeus, who is
Asmodeus.
yeah. If you
Your cat is so funny.
she tries to step on my computer every time like it's open in front of me, she tries to go through it instead of
Yeah.
around it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
excuse me.
I'm keeping this in, by the way.
That's fine. That works for me. So Asmodeus, bad guy, is terrifying. If you ever grew up, if for anybody who's listening to this who did watch the Redwall show
Mhm.
that they had, that was terrifying. Not a fun time. Like it was in a good way, I say. It
Okay.
didn't like it wasn't bad for the show. It was just it was terrifying and stuff. So definitely a big thing. Now in this one, and we'll go more into it later, we have three snakes, but those three snakes are kind of tied together by
Kind of.
something. Kind of. They are very tied together, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like I don't know the right way to put it. It's just like terrifying kind of
Yeah,
a thing.
absolutely.
Gross. Yeah. So, yeah.
Morbid.
Morbid. Thank you. That is, I think, the word that I was looking for. So yeah, that's why I brought up snakes and everything, because that is a big part of the plot at certain points. So yeah, that's up
Yeah,
with that.
I think really briefly talking about the Red Ball show.
Mm,
I had a friend reach out to me this or last week, I can't remember, asking sent me a picture of the Red Wall TV series and was like,
yeah.
"Oh, should I like is this a good introduction to the series? Should I let my kids watch it?" That kind of thing. And I forgot about Asmodeus, and I might just text her and be like, "Just so you know," because their kids are like 4 and 5 or something, like
Ooh.
4 and 6 maybe.
Yeah.
Um, I think 6. And I might just text and be like, "There is a pretty scary snake in there, so just so you know." I just now remembered because I told her I was like, it probably would be. I think the books might be a little bit like we always recommend sort of 8-year-olds, but also depends on your kid and their capacity for, violence and being able to stomach violence, but also not being able to not feeling the need to replicate it, because that's a big thing is um even with something like Bluey, I had a friend who's like, I can't show my kids Bluey because yes, it teaches really good things and actually the kids get in trouble for the things like that they do wrong.
Yeah.
My kids are still copying the things they do wrong because they think it's funny.
Yeah.
And she's like, so I'm not showing my kids that. And I was like, that's so valid.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely the thing about the snakes is they're not just, and it's in Redwall especially, that um the intelligent snakes, because there's a difference from
Mm,
like the cave snakes that you run into in Tagarung, where it was just like a bunch of eels or like snaky creatures.
yeah.
Is this intelligent snakes are all adders, which are all venomous. And so
Yeah.
you've got not just the sort of hypnotic eyes
Mm,
of the adders, you also
yeah.
have the creepiest sound, and then you also have um the venom from
Yeah.
the snake. So it's all very creepy. But you saying that and then reminding me that Asmodeus was in Redwall, I think I should just message her and be like, hey, so just Brianna said this was really scary when she was a kid. So I don't know what your kids feel about snakes, but just be
Yeah.
warned.
I also, it wasn't, honestly, this is not as bad, but it also makes me remember that when I was younger, like under the age of 8, I'm pretty sure, I did at some point, oh, jeez. I almost stepped on Penelope. I somehow, I don't remember how, but I watched the animated Lord of the Rings movie.
Oh my gosh, Brianna.
Yeah, that was terrifying. I don't even remember all the parts that I watched, but like that was terrifying and
Wow.
everything. As an adult, I probably would appreciate it more because actually, as an adult, I've appreciated some of the dark fantasy, honestly, that is a big thing during those
Right.
decades and stuff. But now, like when I was younger, I definitely shouldn't have watched it because that's
Hmm.
just terrifying. But yeah, so
Yeah. Would you like to get into our book stats?
that's okay. So kind of for the most part, guys, at this point, we're just moving up a year in when it was released because I don't know
Hmm.
basically from I don't know if it is from when Redwall came out, but Brian was putting out a book a year.
Yeah.
And these are not small books. I mean, like they're not as big as like some other ones, like Brandon Sanderson's books and stuff.
Yeah.
But they are still like a decent size fantasy book and stuff. With a lot going on, a lot of plot. So, he's putting out books a year. At this point, we're in 20, I almost said 2022. I'm like, no, that was,
I wish. Are you kidding me?
yeah, gosh. Uh, but 2002. And so we are in 2002 at this point. This is the book right after Tiger Run. And then again, it's still Brian Jakes. It's still a middle grade book. It's a fantasy book. So
Hmm.
those are our normal stats. Really, the only thing at this point we've been changing at all when we were talking about the Red books is the year, because other than that, nothing has really changed.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you want me to get right into
Yes,
the
Brianna.
thing? Yes,
Get
I did
into it while
this.
I do some slight editing to the part of the podcast that I usually take a lead on.
Okay. All right. Hundreds of seasons after the events of Tagaran, and far to the north, we are introduced to a new heroine, Triscar, or Triss for short. Enslaved by King Aganu since she was young, she and other slaves on the island of Rifgar live a bleak life, but not completely without hope. Along with two other friends, Shog and Welfo, she attempts an escape. Their first attempt goes awry, but with the help of her old friend Drufo, they succeed in their second attempt. They steal the royal boat, and sadly, Drufo is killed by Princess Kurta. The royal family had intended to use the ship to find where the king's father, King Serengo, fell, or like they weren't sure at that point what had happened to him. Now they have to get the help from a group of vermin pirates and set sail after Triss and her friends. In Mossflower Woods, we find two Dibbins, Abbey babes, who have escaped the Abbey to get away from overbearing adults. But they find much more than they bargained for when they stumble upon the old badger home, Brock Hall. They catch sight of a terrifying serpent before they take off running, though they take along a small treasure with them, a beautiful paw ring. Out near Salamandastron, a trio of friends set off on a journey of their own. Sagaxis, the son of the Lord of Salamandastron, and his hare friend Scarum, and their otter friend Kruva set out on their first major adventure as adults with Kruva's new ship, the Stop Dog. He had stolen it from some vermin, and the trio noticed some odd markings on it. For now, they ignore it. Triss and her friends are in trouble at the beginning of their escape. They have no food or water, and Wilfo is injured by a slingshot wound. Shog seeks an island on a map left on the boat, and they hope that they can find some food and water. They are lucky as they do find help there in a group of peaceful hedgehogs. In the end, Welfo decides to stay behind, and Triss and Shog move on, hoping to one day find a way to free the slaves on Rifgard. Back at the Abbey, the elders, after finding the missing Dibbins, realize that it was Brockhall that was found and seek to find it again, but it is not an easy task. It becomes clear quickly that three massive snakes, who are bound together by a tail wound, have taken up residence in the old home, and the Abbey beasts attempt various ways to stop them. They each fail, but they do find an old golden hamster named Makug. It comes to light that King Serengo had traveled there to find Brockhall, but was stopped by the three snakes' mother. Makug was one of the only survivors and a slave of the king. The Abbey beasts welcome him to the fold, and he reveals that there is a back way into the hall, and it might be a way to take the snakes by surprise. At this point, much has happened with both Triss and Sagaxis' group. They eventually do meet up when Sagaxis and his friends are captured by the Rifgar royals and the pirates that are helping them. But Triss and Shog, who were still being chased, meet up with them when they save them from the pirates. They join forces and head to Redwall. Along the way, they run into Gausenshrews who escort them there, though the royals and pirates are hot on their trail. At this point, the riddle to find the back door has been figured out, and they're able to chase the vermin away from their door. And Triss is given Martin's sword, for her father was a great warrior, and she has taken after him. When they arrive at Brockhall, they find that the vermin and Princess Kurta are there as well, trying to find the crown of Serengo. A fight breaks out, and Triss, Sagaxis, and various Redwallers are finally able to stop and kill Princess Kurta. Poor Shog is killed in the battle, but Triss still has to finish their original goal: free the slaves of Rifgar. The story finishes with a series of journal entries from various people involved with the journey back to Rifgar. Triss and those that went with her finally free the slaves, and some stay behind, while others finally head back home to Redwall, and all is peaceful once again.
All right. Well, you did it, Brenna. You made it through.
I made it through.
Well done.
Thanks.
Yeah, songs and poetry, getting into our sort of discussion section. I don't know. I didn't really have.
There wasn't anything
That
that
to
was
me.
really about, like, none of the songs really stuck out to me, but the big thing was riddles,
Yeah,
which is a part of this and
classic.
stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, because they honestly fit into the poems part a lot of the
Yeah,
time.
100%.
I have something I did want to bring up because this does tie in the riddle part. So I didn't talk a lot about this in the summary because there's just too many details
Hmm.
a lot of the time to do it. Um, but something that happens during the course of the story is there's different points where different characters find this like odd script.
Yeah.
And it's found out it's like the royal ferret families of Riftguard's like script that they have, and it's like in a code. Um, and specifically talking about when they're trying to figure out how to deal with the adder, and they find Makog, and he has this like scroll that he's had with him for literally seasons at this point. He
Hmm.
can't read it because he doesn't know how to read
Hmm.
the Riftguard script. And so the like he's like that my master he's I don't even think he just called him King Serengo. He said the king had written this down because it gave him an insight in how to find the back way into
Yeah.
Brockall. And so he'd had this like direction to it, but he never knew how to deal with it. And this poor golden hamster was not going to be able to take on snakes any way, shape, or form on his
Mm-mm.
own. But when he gets there, but gets back, everybody's like, "Oh, what's this?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I think this might be a way." Because up until this point, everybody had been trying to like figure out how to um take care of the snakes because they're terrifying, and they've
Yeah.
already had a couple of run-ins with them. And we had already had two characters die from it, which was honestly just a straight up tragedy.
Yeah.
With the we'll explain that a little bit later, I think. With this owl character and this eagle character, it was like two old men. Do you know what it made me think of? But it was a
What?
little bit less heroic, honestly. Do you remember the first Mummy movie and that old man pilot that they get to?
No.
Okay. So, I'm not going to talk about the whole Mummy plot, I promise. But later in the movie, the main characters need this is set during like the 30s and stuff, I think. Or the 20 like late it's like early 30s or something like that. Um and the there's a pilot that's been they are in Egypt and he's just kind of vibing there. He's like a royal like a British royal pilot and stuff, and he's always talking about the things that happen, and he's apparently the only one of his like people
Squadron.
like his squadron that survived and stuff. So he's just like he's very drunk, very old, and he's like this big guy. And like big as in he's like he eats a lot kind of a thing. He's
Hmm.
not buff or anything like that.
Hmm.
So, at one point, the main character, Rick, played by Brendan Fraser, he's like, he's how we're gonna get to where we need to go. And this is later in the movie when things are like come to a head and they've got to go after the bad guy. And the old man is like, "Yes, I can do this." And he takes them and he's like, "For glory." And they have like two of the other characters strapped to the wings because it's one of those old planes and stuff. And one of the people have never been on a plane before. It was a funny joke, blah blah blah. And this old man's like, "Yeah." And they crash and they
Of
go to
course.
like pull him out and he died in the crash. And then his whole like what's it called? Whole airplane sinks into the desert because that's how that stuff works. Uh so it just kind of the whole thing that happens with the owl and specifically the eagle slightly made me think about that, except for they were less useful
Oh,
with that. It
yikes.
was it was sad. Yeah. I was like, "Oh my gosh." But so they have this like special script and we have these like characters who are trying to figure out how to do it, and we have specifically this girl otter who's the niece of Skipper in this story, and I think her name's Chug or
Chirk.
Chirk, thank you.
Hmm.
Chirk is like super smart and helps them figure out the riddle because King Serengo left a clue of how to figure it out on like the paper and everything. So that was very interesting aspect of it. Well, it wasn't necessarily a poem. It was the first time that I can remember in the series that we've
Hmm.
used like a special script
Hmm.
that we had to like figure out the code for stuff.
Yeah. I think I don't think Serenga left a clue. Didn't Martin give a clue in a dream too? It was like 5 times 3.
Was that in a dream? I thought that was on the paper.
No, I'm pretty sure it was Martin that gave
Okay.
the
I
clue to
honestly
someone.
I cannot remember right now. It's one of those little details my brain does not hold on to.
Yeah.
Always. Sometimes it does, but like that one for some reason didn't. So
Yeah.
it honestly wouldn't be surprised if that was actually the
Because
thing that's
Serengo
go.
didn't know how to write in Mossflowerian. I don't know
Which
how
is
you say
weird
it. You know what I
because
mean?
even other people from Nilfgaard didn't like I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Uh
It is, yeah, it's one of the lore world building things that again, I love these books, but Brian did not make it very clear as to how these things like there's no world building continuity, I guess. It's just sort of
it's
vibes.
kind of makes me think of the fact one of the things about this is we have the bad guys in this. Three of them are called pure ferrets
Hmm.
and stuff, and they're albino ferrets, I think
Hmm.
is basically what it is. So white fur, pink eyes, that kind of a thing.
Yep.
And so we have the prince and the princess, and then the
Curta
king,
and Blad.
Curta and Blad. And they like the thing I think is interesting is first off, we never meet their mother, so I'm like, I don't know where you
Hmm.
came from. Also, we never meet any other pure ferrets.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, where are they going to find their spouses if they need to continue their line and stuff? So it's like one of those things I'm like, okay, we introduce these like special beings basically.
Hmm.
And I'm like, how do they keep going? Because you're showing me basically that it's just their line dies with them. And it literally does, honestly, in the story for different reasons, but
But I mean,
it's
that's
just,
the other thing is like King Sarengo is the grandfather, and then you have a Garnu, and then you have Curta and Blad.
yeah,
And there's no, at no point do you hear grandmother or mother in
yeah,
either of these. And it's
yeah,
just there's a lot of questions. I was editing an episode yesterday, um, and thinking to myself, there are so many questions that we have here about world building, continuity, animal
yeah,
culture, and the creation of culture in a lot of
yeah.
it's a lot of things. I think the
That, oh, sorry, keep going. I have something to t add.
you have something to say about that. I was just gonna say about the songs and poems that like it is pretty standard Brian Jakes stuff, and
Yeah,
I think the riddle is sort of the big poem through this
yeah,
because it's not even through it. It's sort of through the latter third of the book, because they're trying to find the back entrance of Brock Hall.
yeah.
So,
Something I wanted to point out in this one, and it actually ties into something that's going to happen in the next book too, because I'm in the middle of it, um, is we started to change up some stuff about the Gaussum shrews
we did.
and everything. Yeah. So something I thought that was interesting. Uh, we have the Gaussum from the beginning,
Hmm.
sort of, because Log-a-Log,
Hmm. And some are in Mossflower at Redwall.
yes, and they've been helping trying to figure out the snake situation
Hmm.
with Skipper, all that stuff. Great. But at some point, and I mentioned this in the thing, Triss and her friends run into a group of Gaussum.
Hmm.
The vibes, though, that those Gaussum give off are very different from Gaussum before this. Like, it's like we're peacefully floating around in the this water meadow, basically, and stuff. And I'm like, the Gaussum fight with each other. What's happening? Like, it was
Mm.
just very much like I knew what Brian was trying to do with it, which was like Triss having this moment of like, so this is actually peace. Like, if I'm free, I can have this. Like, great. But what happened to the Gaussum that like argue all the time and
All the
stuff? I feel
arguing
like
ones were at Redwall.
maybe, apparently, but that doesn't make sense either because there were still some warriors with them because it was like the families and
Hmm.
stuff. Uh, but like it's just interesting. And then there's some stuff in the next book, which we're going to talk about in the next episode, Loam Hedge, where we meet a whole new group of shrews that have a different name, acronym name and stuff. So I thought that was interesting, but I was like, why are we introducing this like this late in the game and stuff?
Yeah.
So it's
To
very
spice things
interesting.
up, Brianna.
Yeah, I that's really what it is. That's like exactly 100% what it is. Is at this point Brian's trying to do something different because he's done, and I don't want to say exactly the same thing, but in some areas, yes, exactly the same thing every time.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah.
Yep. Okay, moving on to sort of world building and story stuff. There's a few places, some of them are just mentioned. So Salamandastron is one of the places at the beginning of the book that is
Yeah.
just mentioned at the beginning and then mentioned again at the ending in the journal entries. I
Yeah.
didn't include that in the sort of the location part because it even though we were actually at Salamandastron for like a chapter maybe or even a section of a chapter,
Yeah.
it wasn't long enough to really consider as like
It
in
wasn't a location that we spent time at.
yeah, and exactly. So, sort of there's sort of four places. First is Riftguard. That is the home of the ferrets and their vermin. It's reminiscent of every other far off island
Yeah.
of, vermin running the island. And, we'll actually see this exact same scenario again of a far off island run by vermin and a female who escapes from there. And we're gonna see Hyrule Lane has similar story. I don't think actually the otter from Hyrule Lane is from the like as in she escaped from. I think actually she's from
Yeah.
Redwall. Anyway, that's a completely different thing. She
Yeah.
descended from the island, so it still counts.
Yes. Yeah.
So then we get to Peace Island, which is again, so just some really interesting cultural and world building things I find
It's also again
because
something we've seen before.
Peace Island.
Yeah. We haven't seen not Peace Island, but the concept of Peace Island.
Oh, the concept of peace. Okay, I thought you meant we've seen.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
No,
I
no,
know
no.
that I'm
Sorry.
missing something, but yeah, you're right. It is something we've seen before of an island full of peaceful creatures. And it's just like we're not going to engage in this war essentially that
Yeah.
you're going towards. Um, so just really interesting. It's a hedgehog island also, and
Yeah.
it again questions you don't need to be asking are how often do you find new hedgehogs? So how often is your bloodline having new genetic code entered into it? These are questions I have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Valid questions.
Thank you. It's not because it's a Redwall book and it's a kid's book, and I don't need to think this deeply about these things.
But we will, because that's why we have this podcast.
Exactly. It's the questions. We should change this podcast to the never mind. And then of course you have the journey. So there's which is sort of its own location, is the journey from Riftguard through the ocean, through Mossflower, all the way ending up in Brock Hall. Which again is a lot of locations, but sort of the boat is a location, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you've got, of course, Redwall, which is where you're getting it is the Redwallers that run into the snakes for the first time, so it's the Dibbins, and then they're the ones trying to figure out, okay, where's Brock Hall? How do we get the snakes out? What can we do? And then you have Brock Hall, which is the ancient badger home, which we recently looked at. Oh wait, hold on, it wouldn't be recently.
No, it was very early on. It was a long time ago at this point.
That was like 2 months ago, 3 months ago. I can't remember. Anyway, several episodes ago. We were looking. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm thinking of I don't remember. I revisited it recently in the episodes that I've been editing.
A badger place?
Maybe I'm thinking of Lord Brocktree, because he mentioned briefly Brock Hall, coming from Brock Hall and leaving his son there.
Okay. No, that is recently, but we don't actually spend time at Brock Hall.
No.
The last time we spent time at Brock Hall was very early on. It was literally, I think, the second episode, because Mossflower was our second episode. And that's the only time that we spend any time, because even when we go into Legend of Luke, for some reason, they've completely moved out of Brock Hall and stuff. That honestly, it always slightly bothered me. Like, I get at this point why nobody's living there and stuff, but like why they completely remove themselves from Brock Hall, even though that had been her family seat for a long time and stuff. Just an odd choice, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's because, primary plot ended in Redwall, not in Brock Hall. Yeah. And also created a great place for 3 snakes to live here in this book. So here we go. I also just find it really interesting that it's a world building thing that we don't need to talk about but like, if Brock Hall is the ancient badger home, why is it the ancient badger home? Why? And then why are they called Salamandastron?
That's actually one of my big things. I love Salamandastron.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
love the concept of it. Love badgers. My favorite. But they are their lore is the most weirdly wonky. Like, I'm like, what? Like, because great example, going back to the very beginning, the earliest book chronologically is Lord Brocktree. And that one is his family has been going to Salamandastron at that point for a while now and everything. And he doesn't mention being related to everyone that gone there, but like he's
But
like,
his
yeah, this
father,
is
Stonepaw, was
yeah,
Badger before him. He
yes,
becomes Badger. His son becomes Badger
yes,
after him. His grandson,
son, yeah, and
great
then at that point
grandson.
we lose it and everything and stuff.
Yes.
So, but then there's like other points
Hmm.
where like I'm gonna use. Oh no, I can't. You do that because it's next episode. Um, it's what happens when you record and like are
Hmm.
listening or reading the
Hmm.
next one at the same time. But like there's other. I'm gonna actually Orlando the Axe is such a great
Yeah.
example. Especially because at that point. That was book three. That was
Hmm.
Matameo. We hadn't actually been introduced to Salamandastron much beyond what happened with Boar the Fighter, and that like that was not the full concept of what Salamandastron was at that
Hmm.
point when we saw it in Mossflower. And then we have Orlando the Axe in Matameo, and Salamandastron's not a part of the conversation at all. But it's mentioned in the next book, Pearls of Lutra, that he went off to
Hmm.
the mountain at one point. And I'm like, he has no connection to uh genetically at this like but it's also mentioned multiple times by multiple badgers that they feel the call to Salamandastron eventually. And I'm like, so what is the like common denominator with this? Like, are they from the Mossflower area? Or then they're not, because like if you look at Lord Earthstripe and or Lord Earthwhite, they're from some other land and everything. And it's like, why do they feel the call to this mountain and
Hmm.
stuff? So it's just
Because
interesting to me.
you also have Krega, who we
Yeah,
don't know
no
how she
idea.
found Salamandastron, not part of the story. But then you
Yeah.
have Rosano, who was a random Badger babe who grew up with Krega.
Yeah.
You
And
know what I mean?
actually, that is interesting because then at this point in the story in Triss, he uses the family line thing again because something I did mention when I was doing my intro that we haven't really talked about yet. This is hundreds of
Hmm.
seasons after what happened in Tagarin. So there's none of the characters are still alive from the
Hmm.
previous one. We have no actual connection. It is mentioned that the skipper in this one is related to Tagarin, distantly, but
Yeah.
then we hear Sagaxus mention that his mom is like a couple generations removed from, like, a couple generations down from Lord Rosano, which we
Hmm.
know is still alive in Tagarin and everything, and had kids because we met the kids because
Hmm.
he is doing the story of Lord Brocktree, and we get to
Hmm.
see him at the beginning and ending of that story because he had been telling the story. So like we know at this point between Tagarun and between Triss that the Badger line had been followed. So like
Yeah.
it's a couple generations like that. Uh but and again going into the next book a little bit, literally in Loamhedge, and we'll talk about this more, this badger that is a part of the main story and everything is not related to any of those. He's just some random badger that's coming to the mountain. He says, I'll die there or whatever. It was like, okay. Like, what is the common denominator between all of them, except for that they get called there? And it's like, but they mention multiple times that most badgers get called there. And I'm like, why? So it is one of those
Yeah.
things that's like, it's great concept, but there is no common thing that makes sense of why these badgers get called, and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
it's definitely I wish we would have known more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wish we could have had a bit more of information about it, I guess.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we just don't.
No, we
Um,
don't.
yeah, I also did not at all catch that Sagax Sagaxus is related to
Rosano.
Persano.
It stuck out to me because he literally was making a comment about how his mom named him Sagaxis because she was hoping he'd be wise or whatever.
Mm.
And it's like my great 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 grandfather or whatever,
Yeah, his
kind of a
sixth
thing.
great grandfather Rosano the Wise.
Yeah.
Whoa. Which also tells you how long it's been, because if badgers live so much longer, then
Yeah.
if it's been six generations since Rosano, then it has been even longer for all the woodland creatures.
Yep.
So,
That's
and
how I clocked how much time had
okay,
passed, was that. And then
that makes
also the
sense.
comment about Skipper. I don't remember which one
Yeah,
came before the other, but both those two comments solidified this has been a long time.
yeah. It's also funny to me that so very rarely do we have a character that is related to, in Redwall at least, as in Redwall Abbey, do we have a character that is actually related that far down? Granted,
Yeah.
we have a few with like Dandon and Bryony were both related to Gonf somehow.
I also
Somehow.
feel like in one of the more later books that we'll be getting into, there's another character that's mentioned being related to them, or it's like I'm from the line of Gomp or whatever. I might be
I don't know.
misremembering things, but we'll see when we
I don't
get
know.
there.
But here we have somebody that's related to Tagarung.
Yeah,
And I have questions about that because I'm like, okay, well, I mean, this is answers that we'll never find. Who
no,
did
yeah,
Dana
get with.
marry and
Yeah,
have, you know what I mean? Like who would it have been? Anyway, we'll never know, and that's not the point, is that it's not the
but
point.
it's a question we want to know. It's like
It's a
it's
question, yeah.
not important, but it's something that our brains are like, how did this
Yeah. How
happen?
are all
Yeah,
the dots connecting? I want to know these things.
yeah.
Yeah, I there's also some other things around, you know, I don't know. Just the vermin. There's a lot of questions about the badgers, about the vermin, about inheritance. There's a lot of things that are just not built out in the world building.
No, yeah.
And I think
I
it's okay. I think you and I are thinking way too deeply about these things because especially for me, I'm a big fan of Brandon Sanderson and he thinks these things
mm,
out really deeply and like
yeah,
you go into so he's got his book Yumi and the Nightmare Painter and he's got cultural background and you know there's all this background cultural knowledge that affects how he's writing the stuff. Where with Brian, he is a plot driven story. It is
yeah,
about the plot, it's about the characters and the plot getting to the final point and
yeah,
making the point that good triumphs over evil every time, and
yes.
also that anybody is welcome at Red Bull.
Yes. But the problem is like we tend to be character people
Mhm.
a lot of the time, at least for me.
Mhm.
So I always will have those questions. I've also
Absolutely.
personally been reading various things of varying qualities of
Mhm.
like uh writing and stuff and also like world building and
Yeah,
everything. And so that is like something that I constantly is running through my brain.
absolutely.
So
And
I know it's like
also,
oh sorry.
like, we also have to remember this is written for like 8-year-olds, and they're not going to be
Yes.
asking the same questions. Well, some of them might,
No.
but
But it's kind of the fun thing about having our podcast is we
mhm.
can ask these
Yep.
questions because it's our podcast and we
Yeah,
can talk about
Brian.
the things that make our brain whir
Mhm.
and trying to figure it out or like
Absolutely.
explain certain things and stuff.
Mhm.
So
It's just
yeah.
it's something I get caught in often when I'm watching stuff with friends. And I'm like, what about this? And they're like, Caitlin, this is meant for 8-year-olds. I'm like, but I have questions.
The funny
I
thing
need
is
to
we say
know.
that and I know things can just be simple for kids. That's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that. But I have watched kids media that is geared
Mhm.
towards that does have really in-depth world building and everything. And you could have both, honestly.
You can have both, Brian. Anyway, rest in peace, sir. Cool. Do you want to talk now about our favorite characters or about any characters that stood out to you in particular?
I don't necessarily want to go into the favorite characters category. I just want to kind of
Ooh.
talk about the
Oh,
characters and
okay.
stuff. One of them, I want to start out talking about Triss
Okay.
and everything. She's not a bad character, but I have some qualms with the way that she's written as
Okay.
now as an adult who's enjoyed media with girl warriors in it and
Yeah.
everything. And Triss just isn't doing it for me.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
and I think I have actually some thoughts as to why that is.
Okay.
First off, it's mentioned multiple times that she's a sword maiden, and
Hmm.
she does not fight at any point up
Nope.
until literally, I think, the fight with the
Curta.
snakes, with Kurta.
Yeah.
And I'm like, in other stories, and I'm not trying to say Brian doesn't give
Hmm.
girls their thing. I just think he didn't do a good job of Triss,
Hmm.
with this. And like she is the first girl to have gotten Martin's sword
Yep.
as the warrior. And it's very disappointing to see her get very little screen time as being a warrior, even though she's
Yeah.
mentioned constantly as being one and stuff. And at no point shows that she has the skill, really,
Yep.
honestly, up until she actually starts fighting. And that part bothers me and everything. Like, uh, literally going into the next book. it's frustrating because we get another squirrel. We've had multiple squirrel women
Hmm.
characters. Jess from the first book, loved her. Queen Amber,
Hmm.
loved her. Um, Russa,
Hmm.
loved her. There's plenty of other ones, I'm sure, if I could remember them, but those are the ones sticking out. And then there's another character, girls. I mean, Song wasn't
Hmm.
necessarily a warrior, but she still like could hold her own and everything, and she came from a line of warriors. Like, there's a lot of really good characters, and I just wasn't feeling it with Triss and
Yeah.
everything. And it was because he did not give us enough moments where she got to shine as a warrior. It was just a lot of her like musing over her like journey and everything. Yes.
Yeah, I totally understand. And I agree, Trish was not my favorite character. Like, it's not that she was a bad character. It's just I felt she was pretty two-dimensional. And then especially at the end when you had all the journal entries, I felt like she was not the main character of those things. Like, yeah, she went back to go rescue, or I guess free all the slaves, but
Yeah.
it it wasn't really about her. It was about everybody traveling together.
Yeah.
And I just did not feel like she was actually the protagonist. I really felt like Sagaxis and um Scarum were the main characters. And
Yep.
then like Triss and Shog were also, but not they're sort of the secondary main characters.
We
So,
That actually is something I want to talk about. Sagaxis is one of my favorite badgers, I
mm,
think, at this point, because he is the first male badger that we've gotten
mm,
who doesn't have a tragic backstory.
it's true.
And is just a dude.
Yeah.
Basically, like he's there with his friends. He grows into his own and everything. That's
Yeah.
part of the reason why I like him. But we get to see him grow from basically a young adult into adult,
Hmm.
like vibe wise and
Yeah.
everything. He's still young throughout all of this. But we see him grow in his responsibility and understanding and like all that kind of stuff. And I appreciated his journey more because we saw a progression
Hmm.
with him. Triss, it was just about her goal. But I feel like we've already done a good job with a character like that, and that was
Hmm.
with Grath,
Hmm.
from Pearls of Lutra.
Yeah.
Hers was a revenge story, but still, like we saw some progression of like her getting to her goal and everything, and it was a lot like she wasn't always the focus because we did
Yeah.
focus a lot about on the thing, but like she still got enough of a focus and also was really cool
Yeah.
and stuff and got moments to shine. Like her first meeting them was like really amazing and
Yeah.
stuff because like she was killing the vermin that had pinned them down and stuff.
Yep.
But Triss, we never got those amazing moments with
Mm-mm.
her. It was a lot of like her just along for the ride. Like even when they were on the ocean, it was Shog steering the boat. Makes sense, he's an otter and everything.
Hmm.
And yeah, when they get into the woods, she like scouts and stuff like that or talks with people, but it's a lot about her being sad about what she like. See,
Yep.
I don't want to downplay the fact that she was a slave or anything like that because
Hmm.
that's like the thing. But we don't have a moment until way too late in the book where
Hmm.
she has like this empowering moment of I can fight back
Yeah.
and stuff.
I
So,
completely agree with you, Brianna. I think looking at like Marielle, right? We had Marielle who
yes.
was also a slave who then became the warrior maiden who went back and freed the slaves. It's the exact same story. The difference is with Marielle, you saw her fight and struggle to survive. One, because she was on her own, and two, because she had the warrior spirit in her. And even
Yeah.
though she did not wield Martin's sword, she was the spiritual successor to Martin the Warrior, where yes, Dandon was the yeah,
Sword wielder.
Dandon was the one that was wielding the sword, but Marielle was
Yeah.
the descendant of Martin, spiritually speaking.
Yes,
Dandon was a
yeah.
descendant of Gonf, and it yes, he wielded the sword, but with Triss, you have the same story. She was a slave, she escaped, she went to Redwall, she found Martin's sword, she went back to like free her people. However, at no point do we see her actually fighting. And that was something that at the end, she was like, she got Martin's sword and she was doing all these crazy cool sword tricks. And I'm like, all it says is that you grew up around swords. Growing up around something does not automatically make you capable of doing it. If I
Yeah.
grew up around a guitar, sure, I might be able to hear some things and like I might be able, you know what I mean? If I grew up with a musical
Yeah.
family, I might be able to hear, but it does not automatically mean that I could play the guitar like the best guitar player on the entire planet.
Even if in this case our parent was a guitar prodigy,
Hmm.
does not mean that we could play it
No,
if we never touched a guitar up to that
never.
point. Yeah.
Because you would have had no reason to, because slaves weren't allowed to wield the swords. They could polish the swords, something that they
Yeah.
did, but we didn't get any backstory of her saying, I polished the swords and I practiced while I was polished. Like, you know what I mean? That would have at
Yeah.
least given us some, it's almost like rather than the people having the skill to do the thing, it's the weapon that gives you the skill to do the thing.
Yes.
And
Which no
not,
point previously had Martin's sword ever had that ability to
yeah,
do that. It always was there was it more was a sign that encouraged people to
yeah,
strength around them
yeah,
more than it was something that actually spiritually gave somebody powers
absolutely.
to do
Because even
stuff.
looking at the book right before this, which was Tagarung,
Mm,
Dana, his whole life was around weapons. He
yeah.
grew up, he was a master, um, he was a weapon master essentially because he
Yeah.
grew up his entire life knowing that he was built to use weapons. So when he got Martin the Warrior's sword, of course he's using it like an expert because he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
Triss at no point wields a weapon other than
Not
maybe a
fully.
broken oar or something like that. You know what I
He has
mean?
like a spear at one point that doesn't actually get really used at all. So I actually want to go on a different route to kind of like tap on
Hmm.
that. So going back to Dandon as an example,
Hmm.
Descendant of Gomp, he never showed that he had training at all. But the thing we got to see with him, which made it a little bit more convincing, when you think of it logically, it's not quite so convincing, but like just looking at story progression wise, he has the sword for a while before we get to the final battle
Yeah,
where he fights. So he had had that thing in his hand for a while. We don't know what he's been doing with it, but the fact that he actively had it with him and was like doing things with it, um, made it more convincing when we got to the final battle with him fighting with it. That's the issue with Triss,
yeah,
is at no point before that, using any other weapon, did we see that she had some skills. And she got Martin the Warrior's sword at the last like bit
right.
and then went and did all the stuff. So we didn't have the progression of she'd had the sword or even something else. Like with Mariel, she never had some formal training, but
No,
she used that rope real well and
yep.
stuff. And that was because she practiced with that thing and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and we got to see her on the journey doing that.
Yeah,
But again, with Triss, we don't get that.
yeah,
We do not get even that like that that association of with with the weapon kind of a
yeah,
thing of like I could believe this by the end, even if they hadn't trained all of their life, like Tagaran, or some of the other people had wielded the
yeah,
sword at certain points and stuff.
yeah.
So
I totally agree.
yeah,
I think we could have had a better Triss
yes.
like experience, I guess.
I would
Um,
have loved it if she'd stolen one of Curtis' swords or like had been able to get a hold of one of them and then
yeah,
had that throughout the series, like the rest of the
yeah.
story. I don't even know how that would have worked, but like
I
that
completely
would have
agree.
been nice. Yeah.
It would have made more sense doing that than just having her never wield a weapon
Yeah.
or barely wield a weapon and then suddenly get Martin's sword and be like, I'm a master swordswoman. It's like,
Yeah.
are you
Or
though?
sword maid as they
Sword
called
maid,
her.
Triscar
Yeah.
sword maid.
Yeah.
Um, okay, the one other thing I want to talk about, and then we should probably end it because let's be real. We could talk about this
We could talk
forever.
about this forever. Yeah.
Um, is Shog, excuse me. I was gonna say Krog
Shog, yeah.
because Kruba. I want to talk about Kruba and Shog actually,
Yes,
but
yeah.
Shog first. It is one of the things I think Brian does painfully well
Mm,
is makes you fall in love with the character
hmm
and enjoy them and then be like, well, they're gonna die. And it
Finbar
is
Gale Deep.
Finbar Galedeep.
Yep.
You have Rockjaw Grang in
Yep.
Long Patrol.
Yep.
You have, I mean, we're about to talk about it next time we record. That's gonna be it is, I think both of us agree that the experience in Lumhedge is one of the most impactful for both of us.
Yep.
Um, I will say the Long Patrol with Rosano having that dream that I read when we did Long Patrol
Yeah.
as a little baby and seeing all the animals that died, like that part stays with me and has stayed
Yeah.
with me for a long time.
Yeah.
Next episode, same thing. And then also
Yeah.
something we'll get to in Eulalia, which is not a death thing, actually. It's a poem that we'll get to in Eulalia that is one of my
Mm,
favorite poems ever on the entire
yeah.
planet. Um, it is character deaths in Redwall feel particularly sad when you've had a long time to get to know them. And
Yep.
Shog, something I think Brian, for all that Brian failed with Triss and sort of the story of her being a sword maid, the story of Shog and through his whole, like dragging it through the entire book, all the times he connects with someone, he and Kruva become besties at
Yeah.
Redwall, and it's really, really sweet because neither of them have really had otter friends before. And so, like, it's a brother essentially you get to have. And then for Kruva to be left behind, he's on
Yeah.
wall duty, and Shog gets to go. I forgot that Shog died, if I'm honest with you.
I did too, but I knew Triss started having a reminiscing moment. I was like, I love that dude. And like when they were about to go
Yep,
into battle, I'm like, he's gonna
he's gonna die.
die.
Yep, as soon as that
Dude,
happened, I was like,
what the heck, Brian?
oh no, he's dead.
Yeah.
Um, and also in the battle when it says something about Shog and the snakes. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Mm,
But with Triss at the end, when Shog crawls out on his belly like the snakes got me, I was like,
yeah.
okay, here we go.
Yeah.
And then Triss is just cradling him and weeping for him.
Yeah.
And everybody around her is just like, oh, this is so sad. And then
Yeah.
like again, the same thing with like Kruva and realizing that Kruva realizing that Shog is dead. Just
Yeah.
really, really sad. Um and then as Shog is dying, what does he see? Is he sees the other friend that he escaped with, Welfo, who is on Peace
Yeah.
Island, who avoided all of this heartache and pain, and gets to say goodbye to her in that moment. It's just really sweet
Yeah.
and beautiful and
It is.
incredibly depressing.
Yeah.
So sad.
Yeah.
And then Kruva, I actually really like what they did with Kruva, that
Yeah.
he returned to Riftguard and he got to
He
stay.
went to Riftgar because he
Sorry,
never was from there. Yeah.
he went with everybody else back to Riftguard,
Yeah.
basically. He returned with Triss to Riftguard, where
Yeah.
Shog did not get to go back, but Kruva did. And so it's sort of like
Yeah.
my brother gets to return.
Yeah.
Not actually brothers, but that sort of thing. And then
Yeah.
to have the end of the book written by his wife
Yeah.
and a journal entry by his wife is actually really
I liked that part a lot.
weird, random,
It was
but I
very
really liked
random,
it.
but it emphasized the bit that he was trying to do with the journal entries and
Mhm.
explaining things from the perspective of somebody who'd been a part, like who'd been a slave.
Yeah,
So I did enjoy that part of it. Honestly,
absolutely.
that was a part that saved the whole thing with Shog and Triss's relationship and like journey and stuff. It's just like they did not do a good job of like,
Triss independently.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Especially
Um,
considering that she got to, especially considering she's the one that survived
yeah,
and she had very little character growth through the whole thing.
yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
So who's our least favorite character, Caitlin?
It's obviously Scarum.
Scarum is the worst hare.
I,
I feel like,
he's not the worst. Okay, Clucky is still worse.
yeah,
I
he
did not
was.
like Clucky at all.
Yeah,
Scarum, I like his redeeming moment. Okay, here's the thing about Scarum, you guys. Brandon, you
yeah.
tell me why you didn't like Scarum first.
Multiple times he got them into serious trouble because he cannot, as per normal with usual hair stuff, he would get them in trouble because he'd eat the food or something like that,
He's a
all of it,
glutton,
or what. He's a glutton, and I'm like, okay, that's a normal hair thing. But he never felt sorry for any of it
literally.
stuff. Like he felt sorry for a moment, and then immediately once they're back in a normal routine,
He
he'd
felt
be like,
sorry for himself. He did not feel
yes,
sorry for what he did. He felt sorry for himself because he was experiencing the
yes,
consequences of his actions, not because
yes,
he actually hurt or offended or I, I don't know another word to another
yeah.
person.
We even see it because he has a journal entry
Yep.
at the end, and we even see it in there. It's like
Yep.
he
Yep.
still does it even then and stuff. So
His
I
only redeeming moment for me, and this is
yeah,
why he's still not
bad as Clicky.
as low as Clucky, is that during the battle, because he did go to Salamandastron school and learned some battle
Yes.
things, he took a leadership position in the battle and helped like regiment the spears, the slings, the things. You know what I mean? He was
That
helpful
was
in
great.
and during the battle.
If he had been better after the main group had left and not taken off because he was
Oh,
upset that
yeah.
they wouldn't let him eat anything, I probably would have been less annoyed, I
Yes.
think, at that and left it. But we didn't settle with that. We
No.
didn't be like, no, he's learned some things. He's still a little bit of a glutton, but he'll
Mhm.
like measure himself. No.
No.
He immediately is like, oh, you said I can't eat anymore? I'm gone. I'm gonna go find everybody because I can get away with whatever I want to do if I go back with them.
Not just you said I can't eat anymore. It's that
Yeah.
I ate an entire pie that was meant to feed
Yes.
other
For the
people for the
babies. It was for the
babies.
babies.
And
And I
then I
mean, the
lie
Dimmons
about
are little
it.
gremlins, but
Yes.
like,
And then he lies about it.
yep.
And then he gets in trouble. And rather than dealing with the consequences of his actions, he runs away.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's Klecky here at the bottom. And then
Yeah,
right above him
I scare him.
is Scarum because
Yeah.
just the so annoying
So,
and
so annoying.
does not ever learn. And that's the thing about Sagaxis is he learns.
Yes.
He was, he wasn't as bad as Scarum. Let's be real. He never
No, yeah.
started as low as Scarum, but like
No.
he during the story is like, oh, this is what leadership is. This is what my parents were trying to tell me this entire time. And
Yep.
actually, I learned some responsibility and take ownership of myself and take ownership of my role as
Yeah.
one day Badger Lord of Salamandastron. And I know that's going to be my destiny. And so I want to walk into that. I want to step into that and grow into that.
Yep, absolutely.
Scarum's
For
a little
sure.
turd.
He is. From every moment.
Except for that one moment where he steps up. That
Yeah,
one, and then he steps
that
back down,
one.
and it's like, oh,
He
dude,
gets kidnapped at the end because he's an idiot.
I know. Anyway, it's
Yeah.
fine because in the next book we have, other than Krega, one of my favorite badgers. There's a lot of favorite badgers. I'm just
Yes,
sitting here
yeah.
realizing actually Eulalia has some of my favorite badgers in it. Anyway,
There's very few of the Badgers that are not usually the favorite character
yeah,
in the thing. I think Earthstripe is the only one I'm
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
it's not even that he's a bad guy or anything. It's just it's a tragedy is
It's
mostly like a
tragedy.
big part of it.
Yeah.
And then like there's other ones don't have a lot of opinion about, like Earthwhite. Like
Hmm.
I don't have that much opinion about him because of the way that the story goes and
Hmm.
everything. Also the Badger in Muriel, I forget his name.
Blade.
Ron Blade. He was great, but also he didn't like stand out
Hmm.
like some of the Badgers did. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. All right, so what would you give Triss, nostalgia wise?
I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I remember liking it more when I was younger, but
Hmm.
I think it was because I was younger. I don't know if I actually read the Tortall books at this point,
Okay.
and that has become my standard in a lot of ways, not completely, of a woman warrior
Yeah.
character. And Brian's done better is the other thing.
Yeah.
Like Brian's done so much better in previous
With
books.
previous books that he's written
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, 3.5. Because it still is nostalgic for me. There's things in it that's
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, characters that were like loved, but just overall, it's definitely not the worst book for me.
Yeah.
We know what that one is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but it's still, unfortunately, it's pretty low.
Yeah. I agree. It's for me, it's a three.
Yeah.
I said this to you going into it. I did not remember most of the
Yeah.
book until I started reading it. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I remember that now.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, I yeah, it's something I will. I mean, I will read it again at some point. I periodically go through rereading these every few years.
Yeah.
It's not one of the ones I'll reread frequently, but it's there. It's good.
It's
It's
there. Yeah.
story. It's if listen to the audiobook, I guess. I don't know. So I think it's a three for me.
Yeah.
Brandon, do you have any other thoughts you'd like to share?
Um, no, not really. I mean, like, there's some characters we didn't cover, like the snakes. Like,
Yeah.
there's like, oh, one thing I will say, this
Yeah.
is one of the few times a group of vermin was actually upset when their leader died.
Oh yes, the
Yeah,
pirates.
the pirates. They actually were not good people, but they were okay for their group and everything and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they were still bad guys, but like they actually were loyal to each other.
Yep. They liked
And
their
stuff.
captain.
They liked their captain, even though he he thought everybody was an idiot, but I'm like, I have a feeling you all work because you don't want to actively kill your crew members for doing things wrong. He got mad, he got upset, he smacked people a couple of times, but he didn't actively want to kill people. And I feel like that does a lot for loyalty
It
with
does.
bad guys. So
It does.
that was something I wanted to mention because I was like, ah, this is nice. It makes me think of that mercenary captain from Mossflower and how his group actually liked him. And but he ends up dying because betrayal and all that kind of thing. So
and greed.
So I just wanted to mention that because I thought that was an interesting thing that we don't really get to see very often with the vermin.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Readers Clubhouse. If you like this discussion and you want to hear more, you can find us on YouTube and Spotify every other Friday. Check out our episode descriptions for our social media and join us in the Clubhouse next time as we discuss Loam Hedge by Brian Fields, which is one of my favorites. I think. I don't know. I'm still undecided, but I'm already 15% of the way through it and I'm really enjoying it. So that's all I have to say. All right, guys. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.